You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about dragons. Dragons and nothing but dragons. Nothing else ever again. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And welcome to Season 5.
Yep, our Dragon Age endeavor begins here. A game that notoriously has so many dragons in it.
So many dragons.
It's just the dumbest complaint I've ever seen online about not enough dragons.
This bad boy can hold so many dragons.
So for those who don't know what's going on, or if this is your first episode, which why? But if
because it's a new game, Matt, this is the perfect time to start listening to us.
That is very true. And there are some folks that I've been speaking to during our hiatus who've checked out the show, so maybe they've caught up by now. Who knows? Some of our listeners are very impressive with listening to backlogs. But Season 5, we are delving into the Dragon Age series. We are bidding farewell to Mass Effect for now. We will revisit it when the new game comes out after we finish Dragon Age, because at this point we're in it for the long haul. And there are technically 3 games, but the first game pretty much has 2 games. So there's Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age Awakening, which was the DLC to Origins, which is pretty much a whole other game, which will probably get its own season as well. Then Dragon Age 2, and then Dragon Age Inquisition.
Don't forget all the DLC of Dragon Age Origins. There's Returning to Ostagar, there's the Darkspawn DLC, there's the Liliana DLC.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like some of that DLC fits in with the first half of the game, whereas Awakening is a whole other thing. It's just a separate story completely that takes place after the events of Dragon Age Origins.
I don't think I've ever won Awakening.
Yeah, no. But our plan is to cover all of these games in a similar style to what we have done before, where we make the decisions as if we were the characters in those positions to make the decisions. Playing as Hawk will be a little more challenging just because Hawk is less of a player stand-in, because Hawk has so much personality by the time you pick up as them. But it's not too dissimilar to Shepard, and how Shepard is kind of a fully formed being that you get to guide. So it should be interesting, to say the least.
For sure. I'm really excited about Dragon Age.
Yeah, I mean, this is all your fault. The reason
yes,
I actually played,
it is.
For those who don't know, and we'll get into this in a bit, but like my experience with Dragon Age is more recent within the last 5 years, and it's mostly because Frankie bothered me until I played them all.
I did. I was relentless.
And I guess this is a good place to talk about our prior experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned this.
The plan a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why don't you, go over the plan a little bit, and then we'll go into our prior experience.
So previously, we've actually planned out our missions, like, pretty detailed. So that way it was easy for us to indicate to people who wanted to play along. We've had season maps in the past. I don't think that's going to happen this time around. I think that we have a general kind of meta idea of what we're doing, but it's kind of a big, beefy game. So we're going to be feeling it out as we go. Yeah,
likely whatever season Dragon Age 2 is will have some semblance of episode map, because that one's more of a straight line.
Yeah.
But Origins, Awakening, and Inquisition, it'll be tougher. I expect Inquisition to look a lot like our Andromeda season. Sort of a map, sort of not.
We'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
But yes, we will always tell you at the end of the episode you're listening to what we plan to try and do next more broadly. But I would say maybe just start a replay of Origins and just play. I think that if it's your first time playing the game and you're playing with us, thank you. It's going to be a little tougher. But if this is the nth time that you've played the game, then just play it. You'll know what we're talking about most of the time, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah. It's a whole new animal.
It is a whole new animal. A Mabari, you might say. A whole new Mabari.
I don't know if I would say that.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe a nug?
A nug? Yeah, all right, sure. Why not?
Or is it a hala?
We're just going to start listing Dragon Age animals now.
Hala.
Oh, God. Anyway, so that's the broad plan. And as far as our prior experience, we did talk about this a little bit at the end of the last episode, but in case this is anyone's first episode, as a refresher, so I has always been interested in the Dragon Age series, but never really played it. I tried playing Origins on Xbox, and because it's not meant for a controller, it was designed with a keyboard and mouse in mind, I struggled with it. Also, back then, I didn't play anything on lower difficulties because I was stubborn, and so that probably calls into it as well. And so I abandoned the franchise. I never bothered with 2. And then when I got a PS4 as a wedding present, one of the games lent to me by my friend Beth that I ended up getting to keep was Dragon Age Inquisition, which I played a little bit of and I liked, but never finished. And then I think at the start of the pandemic, or right before the pandemic, when I was streaming more frequently, I was like, you know what? I've never beaten Dragon Age. I've gotten pretty far in it during the pandemic. Why don't I stream the last bit of it and finally get through it? And so I finished it. I finished the DLC and fell in love with the game. I really liked my human rogue that I made. I really liked the story. Once you get past the hinterlands, the cursed hinterlands. And so then after I beat it, I was like, Frankie was like, are you going to play Origins? Are you going to play Origins? Matt, are you going to play Origins? And I was like, yes, I'll play Origins. And so I bought Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 on PC, on Steam, and then played through both of them and ended up really loving them, though they took me a very long time, especially Origins. And then when I got to Awakening, I was like, oh, cool, a little bit of DLC. 20 hours later, what the hell? Also, just really threw me off that Anders' voice actor in Awakening is an Inquisition voice actor and not his voice actor in 2, and it just was very weird for my brain.
Yeah, that's valid.
Because Cullen's voice actor does Anders in Awakening, and also does Cullen in Origins. So it's like, wait, what? Like, it just, I'm too much of a voice actor nerd to parse that well. And so it always weirds me out. Thank God they hired someone else to play him in Dragon Age 2. But yeah, and so that's kind of my brief history with the games. I've only played all of the games except Inquisition once. I've played Inquisition to the end once, and I've played it 5 times and abandoned it at different moments in time. So, like, all these games are long, and as much as I love them, it's hard. Like, you could get through every Mass Effect game in the trilogy in about 10 to 15 hours. If you really rush, probably less. But none of the Dragon Age games can really do that. Just the way the narratives are created, you kind of have to go through the long side of it and do a lot of the side quests. And so most of these games are between 20 to 30 or 40 hours. And so it's much harder to kind of streamline these games like we did for so many years with the original Mass Effect trilogy.
Yeah. For me, my relationship with Dragon Age, God, I can't remember. Did I play Dragon Age when we were living together?
I think so. I feel like I had bought it and didn't like it, and then you tried it and ended up really liking it and playing it.
Yeah. I think I remember one of our mutual friends gave me, like, a Xbox gift card so that way I could buy the DLC for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a thing that happened. Dragon Age Origins, I definitely started a bunch of times and didn't quite stick to it. I've tried all of the Origins. All of the Origins. I have experienced them all. But it's kind of a hard game to, like, really sink into.
Yeah.
I feel like Mass Effect 2, like, you were off to a rocket start. And Mass Effect 1 is also a little hard to sink into, so they have that in common. But once you're in it, then you're, like, really enraptured in the narrative and all the tragedy that's going on around you. A lot of people say that Mass Effect is more tragic than Dragon Age, and I disagree. Mass Effect does not make me as depressed as Dragon Age can.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do really enjoy Dragon Age. Dragon Age 2 is my favorite of the 3 games. I think that is the most fun. I love the fighting, the combat of Dragon Age 2. I love the characters. Dragon Age 2 is also the most bisexual of the games, which is wonderful. The only thing that I dislike about 2 is that your character is very rigidly a human, no matter what. Like, what I loved about Origins was being able to choose my race and my beginning point, my origin. Yeah. You know? It's in the name. Does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Whereas Dragon Age 2, it lacked that. I still love it, but it did lack that a little bit. And Inquisition took me so many tries to get into because of the hinterlands. Every time I got to the hinterlands, I'm like, fuck this game. And I just stopped. But once I finally learned that you can't just beat the hinterlands, there is no beating the hinterlands. You gotta just progress the story and come back to it later when you're a higher level. It'll be fine. That was very hard for me to accept because I am very much I'm in this area, I complete this area, I move on to the next area, I complete this area. It's because I'm neurodivergent.
Well, and also because open world games had trained us to do that up until that point mostly.
It's why I have to eat one set of food. Like each time. Like I have to eat all of my french fries and then my burger, or like I can't mix and match. It's the same with playing games. It's very weird. I am a strange person. But yeah, I love all of my characters. I probably chose the worst romance for Inquisition the first time that I actually like really played it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It was not a good romance. Like it was good in a way,
Yeah.
but then the conclusion of it was not very good.
Ah, I see. Yeah, the one thing I will say is I really enjoyed all the romances I chose in my playthroughs. I romanced Liliana in the first game. And 2, is it Isabella is the pirate?
Yes.
I romanced Isabella because how could I not? And then
Because you wanted to fix her.
Because I could fix her. And then in Dragon Age Inquisition, my first time through playing as a male Inquisitor, I romanced Josephine, the undeniably best character in that game.
Alistair Anders Blackwall. Yeah,
well,
the Blackwall romance.
We might have to bring on AOL for the Blackwall romance because I believe she is still a staunch Blackwall defender.
I don't know how. Like,
I don't know either.
The reason why I romanced Blackwall in the first place was because there's something just really refreshing about someone who looks at you and is like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, you're fucking great. Like,
yeah.
You're beautiful, you're strong, you're wonderful. Like, that. There's something really nice about someone who's upfront about that.
Yeah.
And that's what Blackwall is. He's just like, yeah, I really admire you for, like, all of these reasons. Also, I'm attracted to you. So, like, There was more than just, like, let's bone. It was like, I have many reasons to like you.
Yeah.
And then all the stuff with Blackwall happened, and I was like, what?
Yeah. That's a lot. I
don't like any of this.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that more. Yeah, I think I'm curious to see how I pursue this really focused in, because I feel like in Dragon Age Inquisition, Josephine is a strong target because Josephine is my type, and I pursued Josephine because I was playing sort of myself.
She's a Disney princess. She's so great.
But yeah, Disney princess that can still take care of herself though, like later Disney princesses for sure. But I don't know. This time around, also with some caveats we're going to get into with character creation, I just don't know that I'm going to pursue Josephine this time. We'll see. Like, I really,
who knows?
I'm trying not to overthink it. I'm trying not to get inside my own head about it because I think what's done me a success in previous playthroughs is for the other stuff we've covered is to just kind of let the game guide me and just kind of follow my heart. It didn't work so well in Andromeda only because then I waited till the absolute last minute to make a choice, but I still did. So we'll see.
I'm going to try and resist the golden retriever energy of Alistair.
I know. Yeah. It's tough.
It's so hard.
He's very sweet. Yeah. I think the reason I went to Liliana is mostly because I had that, because I'd played Inquisition first. And so like I had that connection, whereas none of the other first game characters except one who is part of the narrative, show up later very much. Like one of them becomes a regular player in Inquisition. The rest are just, they sort of exist in the world and maybe you see them once. So
the first time I played, I didn't pick up Liliana.
Yeah. I mean, me neither when I played on Xbox. Yeah, totally. Quite a few characters in the first game were easy to miss, which all right, is fair enough. I mean, and technically in Mass Effect 1, there are characters that you can miss. You can miss Rex, you can miss Garrus. Mm-hmm. You have to go out of your way to do it, but you can play that whole game without either of them. And then I hear that the vigilante stuff in 2 is very different, which is interesting. I've never tried that because who wants to go an entire game without Garrus?
I know. I thought about it once and I was like, but my boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So previously, when we've designed our characters for Mass Effect, it's been very easy. We were limited on options. Male or female. Make them look like you.
Yeah.
But with Dragon Age Origins, we have so many options. And if we decide to just make a character that's like us, then we're stuck playing humans, which we have so many options. So what we've decided to do is I came up with a DAO character randomizer. Whee! So we are going to Actually, I was going to do a coin flip for male or female. I just want to play a femme character. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I was probably good. I mean, for me, it was all going to be based on what I could get closest to look like me. So I was either going to play femme or mask. I haven't decided. Okay. But yeah, we don't have to roll for gender. Yeah, it's fine.
Roll for gender.
I mean, depending on the morning, that's what it feels like. But
I want that on a shirt.
Roll for gender.
Roll
must
for
exist.
Gender.
I have to imagine with all the D&D actual plays out there with queer people that has to exist already. There's no way it doesn't exist already.
I want Maddie to make it as a shirt because our good friend Maddie Limerick is doing a series of shirt designs with the Barbie font.
Yeah.
For D&D. And I want Maddie to do a roll for gender shirt.
Gender. All right, you'll have to write Maddie after this.
I will.
Make that happen.
Okay, so we will roll for our race.
Yes.
If we roll a 1 or 6, we're human. If we roll 2, that's a city elf. 5 is a Dalish elf. 3 is a royal dwarf. Or 4 is an outcast dwarf.
For the record, the only background I've done in Origins that I remember is the one I did most recently when I finished it, and I was a high dwarf. I was a rich dwarf, fancy dwarf.
I'm going to use real dice. Do you want to roll first?
I don't have real dice, so you'll have to roll for me. But yes, you can roll first.
You can use digital dice.
Fine, I'll use digital dice. What are we using? D6?
Yeah, D6. Get that good clicky clack sound.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to use a sparkly blue one.
All right. Am I going first?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
I got a 4. Is that the rich dwarf?
Outcast dwarf.
Can I get a reroll? I literally don't want to play dwarf this time around.
That is so against the spirit of the game.
Fine.
The outcast dwarf is a very different experience.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. It's my turn. I will only re-roll if I also get a 4.
Okay. No, if you get a 4, I should re-roll.
Why should you re-roll?
Because I don't want it.
I got a 6.
Oh, so that's human.
Yeah.
Which
Just human.
Just regular human.
Yeah. Boo.
Well, you said it's against the spirit of the game to re-roll, so.
Fine, I'll be a human.
Great. All right. So what are we rolling for? And we're not rolling for class. We're gonna
just choose one.
Yeah. So I have some ideas. I haven't really played a ranged rogue character, so like a bow and arrow ranger character, and so I'm thinking that. But also I've limitedly play mage. So like I played mage a little bit in the third game, but that's it. And
you can't be a mage if you're a dwarf.
Shoot. All right. Well, then I guess I will either be a ranged rogue or a
warrior. If you really want to be a mage, I will let you re-roll. I
don't know that I kind of do, kind of don't. I hadn't really decided yet, so.
Dwarves can't use magic.
That's right. When I played the most recent time and finished it a few years back, I was a dwarf warrior. And so I don't want to be a dwarf warrior again.
Yeah,
I did that
don't do
already.
That.
Yeah. Plus, we have a perfectly good dwarf warrior in the party. Although technically you get one of almost everything.
Is he perfectly good or is he heavily used?
Look, he's voiced by my favorite voice actor, so I can't comment.
Like, he's extremely damaged, Matt.
He is, but he's our dwarven version of Grunt, more or less.
No, he's not. Grunt is so much better than Ogren.
That's true. You're right.
This is an Ogren, not hate account, but Ogren seriously on thin ice. Like, he is the straight on thin ice in our party.
That's true. That is definitely true.
All right, so I am going to be a human. I mean, I love playing a rogue, baby.
Yeah, it is likely I will end up. I mean, also, I feel like in our Mass Effect playthrough, you ended up not doing Vanguard, even though I did Vanguard.
Correct. I did Sentinel. Sentinel?
You did do Sentinel. Yeah.
That one.
So
I conceded Vanguard to you.
That's true. But that said, Rogue, there are two different versions of Rogue in these games.
There's the Ranger type or the
sneaky stabby type.
Yeah. And also if I chose Mage, then I would be in the circle.
Yeah. I mean, you're the one who's played everything before. So.
I know. I've played everything. So I'm just like, Which origin is tastiest? All of them are really depressing.
I am saying, though, if we do this roll again for Inquisition and I get Dwarf again, I am vetoing it.
Okay,
I'm not
fine.
playing a Dwarf in Inquisition because
Fine.
all of the other races are more interesting than Dwarf in Inquisition. And I've played that a bunch, too.
Okay.
Anyway.
Fine. Okay. So did you like make a final decision?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a Dwarf Ranger because I don't want to do Warrior because if I'm doing a Warrior, I prefer tank, and I don't want to tank again. Though I will say that mostly the reason in Origins the first time I picked a Dwarven tank is so I could take hits and not die.
Yeah, that's also like the easiest way to get through the game.
Correct. And
it's like playing Soldier in Mass Effect.
Right. And I knew if I struggled with Origins at all, I was going to abandon it. And so I wanted to make sure I got through it. So
yeah.
I'm more inclined to be a little looser this time. Also, I'm just going to play on an easier difficulty if that's an option because I don't care about challenge.
I will do a human mage because that will put me in the circle. And I think that's more interesting than being a Kusland.
Yeah.
If you choose human warrior or rogue, you are automatically like part of a noble family.
Mm.
I've decided I don't want that. I don't want to do that.
We're both gonna be poor.
Yes. Well, we're both gonna be marginalized.
Yes, which seems on brand for us.
Very on brand. Extremely on brand. Okay, cool. So we've made our characters. That's so exciting.
Between now and when this episode comes out, we will create said characters so we can include them in the show art. Our show art will continue to be created by the incredible Case Aiken. We are also in the process of getting a brand new logo designed, which you may or may not be seeing by the time you hear this episode, but will be coming soon if you do not. We're very excited about that as well. And so this is the beginning of our Dragon Age story. It's going to take us a while.
Matt, would you say that this is our Dragon Age origin? I
hate you. You're fired.
Well, that's a wrap on Frankie, folks. It was nice working with you.
This is, like I said, we're in for the long haul on this one. Of course, we know that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is coming, as well as whatever Mass Effect 5 is. As we've said before, and I'll just reiterate here, we will more than likely cover Dragon Age Dreadwolf if it's out by the time we get to the end of this, at the tail end of this run, before doing Mass Effect 5. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense now that we're in this franchise to jump back to the original franchise we were doing. We are, of course, going to do it like any other good Mass Effect podcast. But I think also my learning experience with playing Andromeda for the first time on the show was fun at times. It was also very frustrating at times because I really didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. And I'd much rather both of us get to play these new games in both franchises ourselves before we play them for the show. That doesn't mean we'll never do a unknown playthrough in the future. I just think for now it just makes more sense to have the experience with the game, play it however we want, and then play it within the show's constraints. So that means those hoping we would eventually touch the Fable series, it's not out of the realm of possibility yet, but probably way down the line when we're done with BioWare, which will take us at least another 20 years. So.
Yeah. Look, we have our niche.
We do. It's true. We are a BioWare podcast now officially. Often I get credit in the episodes of the Game Informer show, and I made sure to tell Alex it's no longer a Mass Effect podcast when you talk about Reignite. It's a BioWare podcast. And he's like, no problem. So living up to that name.
So on our next episode, we are actually going to discuss our origin stories in detail, how we feel about it, the decisions that were made, all of that good stuff. The reason you come to us.
Yes, this is a shorter episode because we wanted to kind of get and in a very similar way to the launch of the entire podcast, like just a kind of primer of what we're looking to do. And then we get into the nitty gritty in the next episode. It gives us time also to make our characters and get through those origins, which do take a bit of time. So we will be doing that. If you are going to create a character, now is the time to do it. We would love in the Discord and the BioWare chat on our Discord server to see your characters that you've made. A lot of you folks did that in the early days of the Mass Effect run, and we loved it, and anytime you made a character. So please do that this time, too. There's so many different characters that you can make in this game, so we would love to see the different versions that you have made.
And yet you still can't have blue hair.
No blue hair. It's a bummer.
This is a personal attack.
I'm blonde now, so I can. That's easy. All games let you be blonde.
I'm blonde. All games let me blonde.
Thank you. All right. Maybe we should do our outro now.
So if you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We are still Reignite Pod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at FrankieBWrites and Matt at DJ_Stormageddon. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server, as I mentioned before, and join in the conversation. Just because we are moving franchises doesn't mean we won't still be shitposting about Mass Effect. So come on through if that's what you love about us.
And as for personal plugs, I still have fucking nothing on my plate. I am a PhD researcher. I have a lot of things I volunteered for over the course of the next few months. Nothing any of you can help me with, so
there.
So there. It be like that.
It does. It do be like that. My major thing to plug is since our last hiatus, Fun and Games announced a Patreon. Jeff and I have started a Patreon. It's very straightforward. It's of course at patreon.com/funandgamespod. It is at the $3 level, you get our love and appreciation. At the $5 level, you get a shout out in every episode. And at the $10 level, you get access to our bonus content, reviews, previews, listicles, all sorts of stuff that we're going to be working on for that. We are really grateful for those who have contributed already to the Patreon. So if you're looking for a way to support me right now in the shows that I do, that is the best way to do it. I still have a Ko-fi and other things, but I'm kind of pushing towards Fun and Games, getting more access to conventions and stuff as we continue to grow that pod. And me being able to grow that pod only helps this pod, as they are both video game related. So if you're looking to support me, that is the best place to go for the short term. We'd like to thank Carter's husband as well for developing more amazing t-shirt designs, which you can find at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring.
And we'd also like to thank Radic Wade and Echoes of Oblivion for our theme music.
You can enjoy the unedited full track at the end of this episode to celebrate the premiere. And of course, in the intro of the show, you heard the edited version that we will be using going forward.
All right, that's it for us, Grey Wardens. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon. Remember, Grey Wardens.
In war, victory.
In peace, vigilance.
In death, sacrifice. Okay, love you, bye!
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.